Jai Ganesh. Let's do a little chant to Devi because Diwali is really Lakshmi. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Lakshmi Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha. Jai Ganesh. Thank you. It's been a bit of a hiatus. I've been traveling pretty much non-stop since mid-September. Kurt accompanied me for most of it, and I think he's still recuperating. And there's a lot I want to do. I also want to announce our retreats and workshops and even an India trip coming up in 2021, but that's for later. I also want to answer a couple of your questions. You sent my email, one of us on Patreon. I will answer those questions, but I really want to get into Diwali because Diwali is the Indian equivalent of Christmas, especially when it comes to shopping. It's huge. And at this time of the year, today is the first day of Diwali, so it's a beautiful coincidence on a Friday. And I'm going to walk through all the symbols because there's a story and there's deep symbolisms and there's a cultural aspect. So today is called Dhantera. Dhantera means wealth. And you do not want to go around any gold stores in India because they are like so packed. I remember Jyoti and I were many years ago tried to go to a shopping area in Coimbatore. We couldn't even get into that street. It's so packed. And as it is, the distance in India is between people are a lot lesser than here. What's it called, Kurt? Keeping an arm's length. There's a phrase, right?
Yeah.
But in India, it's right up close and personal. But during Diwali, it's like one big happy family. Yeah, everyone's together, and people buy gold. Obviously, today is the day to buy gold. And the gold shops offer the best deal. People buy clothes. So in that spirit, I myself, this is a new t-shirt I got from Kohl's for a whopping $11. So I love it. And Diwali is mainly Lakshmi. So red and gold is Lakshmi's colors. There's a beautiful big Lakshmi there in red and gold, standing Lakshmi. So I think when you combine red and gold, you can get orange. So I'm wearing an orange t-shirt. And that Lakshmi, Elton John has the same Lakshmi. And Lakshmi's energy is expansiveness. So it's interesting. There was a bit of a controversy in Iowa where Trump claimed he had a bigger crowd than Elton John, who was performing in Iowa. So if Trump had a Lakshmi, he can make a claim to that. About bigly, right? So it's also a Western festival. It's a very much this time of a year is pagan. So Halloween is also the same time, and you have the Celtic festival of Samhain, pagan again, just around this time. So this is the day between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. And it's called the Scorpio transition because the sun enters the Scorpio around October 23. But when you really analyze the way the Shakti moves through all of us and through the world, you have the breath of Shakti, which is like a sinusoidal wave. And please, if you have any questions, ask away, and Kurt will relay your questions to me on YouTube or any comments.
Right now.
Okay. So when you have the breath of Shakti, it's a sinusoidal wave, It's like this. And this is like that October 23 to 26th, this time of the year. It is what is called an inflection point in math, where the double derivative is 0. But what it means is really a transition from the darkness to the light. Okay, so this is really the start of the new year, in India, in Diwali, in Samhain, or any pagan tradition, and even Mexico has something similar, the Day of the Dead, and you have Halloween, so there's a lot of similar festivals throughout the world. But from the Indian perspective, this is like new beginnings, and it's also to kind of work through and remove the stuff that holds you back, and I'll get into that. But the important thing is, this is a transition point. It's called inflection point, okay, in math. And this is the time for all of us to renew our intention. It's also to work with any archetype you have, because in Diwali, all the archetypes are come together. It's a climax. So when you look at the Indian cultural tradition, the yogic tradition, you have major festivals throughout the year. For instance, Mahashivratri is February or March. That's the night of Lord Shiva. And then you have the next festival is Hanuman Jayanti, Hanuman's birthday, sometime in May. And then you have Krishna's birthday, Janmashtami in August. I did a whole talk on that. Please look at that. There's an earlier live stream on Krishna's Janmashtami. Many symbols of Krishna. And then after that, in September, is like Ganesha's birthday. It's like one big party. Ganesh is like full-on party, Ganapati Om, Gana party on. And then you have a beautiful Navratri, a goddess festival, the 9 nights, right? Durga, Lakshmi and Saraswati. Right now is Diwali, which is the culmination. It's a grand finale of everything throughout the year, and the new year begins. So Diwali is really where all the archetypes come together. And there are 5 days celebrated in Diwali. In South India, they do it over 3 days, but I'm going to go a little extra, and I'm going to do all 5 days. Even though I grew up in Kerala and in South India, Mumbai, with 3 days, that's my tradition. But I want to encompass everyone and do 5 days. So today is literally the first day, and it's called Dhantera. Dhantera means, Dhan means literally wealth, okay? But what's the wealth are we talking about? Are we talking about gold? No, we're way past the material world. I mean, we've been there, done that. That's the first quarter in the hero's journey, the material world. And I suspect the reason we are all in our journey is we've kind of gone beyond the material world into more spiritual world. So what is wealth? It starts with health, actually. And in Ayurveda, the lord of health is Dhanvantri. So Dhantera actually comes from Dhanvantri. So Dhan is the real wealth. And I'm going to get into the story of how Dhanvantri comes from the churning of the ocean of milk, just like Lakshmi. And in the south, what we would do is we would actually have early morning oil bath, and there's a deep symbolisms of the ritual. Why oil? What does the oil do? Hint: it actually works with the nadi channels in us. The Ida nadi. It actually works with that. I'll get into that. And then what people do is like they buy gold, they buy fresh clothes, they buy gifts. It's like Christmas, And then the next day is where it starts to get really interesting. So this is number 1, Dhantera. The second day is what is called Narakashura. Naraka Dashi, which means there's a demon called Narakasura, okay? And this is very similar to Durga. This is the negative stuff in our lives, that doesn't serve us. So we all each have to reflect what's the dark side in our life we've had over the last 1 year. It could be malaise, it could be a feeling of lack of worthiness, it could be anger, it could be betrayal. There's so many issues we all have. We are part of the human condition. And there's a story of this demon Narakasura. So Naraka literally means hell, and Asura means away from the light. So we've all been through a hell in some way or the other. So in the story there was this demon Narakasura, and Sura is light, Asura is away from the light, and he was actually born of Bhudevi, which is a earth mother. And there's another long story of Hiranyakashpa, but I don't want to get into that. Let's talk about Narakasura. And many, as other demons go, like the Durga demon Mahishasura, I've gotten into that. The Kali demon, which is like the Rakta Bija, I've gotten into that. But these demons typically pray to Brahma, do yogic austerities, they stand on one leg, do the tree pose, and they ask for immortality from Brahma. But Narakasura is very smart, because he feels people are strong. Because remember, they worked through Dantera, the first day where they worked out their health issues. And I'm going to go down a small rabbit hole. For me, one big health issue personally is fasting. But it's not just the intermittent fasting. I've done that 1 to 3 days. To me, it's dry fasting. Okay, dry fasting. I'm actually doing dry fasting as we speak. I did a dry fast 24 hours on the airplane coming back from Vermont. Tough, very tough. But the story of dry fasting was one of the Pandava brothers, Bhima. He saw everyone doing regular fasting, which is water fasting, but he couldn't, because Bhima loves junk food. So he went to Veda Vyasa, the author of the Mahabharata, and told him, hey, please help me, I can't, I have these cravings, And Veda Vyasa then counseled him that if you do dry fasting, abstain from water and food for 1 day, 24 hours, it's equivalent to 3 days of water fasting. And that's really what the scientific community has found out. And you have many results like autophagy, it helps you keep your sharpness. So personally, I do fasting. I've been doing it for a while, and especially when you travel or do so much, I think the fasting rejuvenates you. So for me, Dantera is fasting. So coming to the story of the demon Narakasura, he's not going to claim immortality from Brahma, because he's doing austerity to Brahma. Brahma gets pleased. He says, I want to attack people like mentally. So he tells Brahma, you set it up so that only my mother can kill me. That's pretty extreme, right? I mean, a mother, which mother would want to kill their child? So he thinks he's in safe territory. And Brahma says, okay, you got it. But it's with a big wink, because they know the end of the story. And now Narakasura is like one of the most powerful demons ever. And he literally takes over the 3 worlds, Bhu, Bhuva, Om Bhu Bhuva Swara. Om Bhu Bhuva Swaha, right? Bhu is like the earth, then you have the netherworld, and then you have the heavens. So he conquers all the 3 worlds. And even in the heaven, with the powerful gods and goddesses, he attacks Indra, and he conquers Indra's elephant. And that elephant has, it's a white elephant with 4 tusks. And there's a symbolism of that, I'll get into that. And that elephant was presented by Bhudevi to Indra. Then he captures 16,000 princesses from heaven, and he imprisons them. And there's a big metaphor of the 16,000. Very few people know that, but I'm going to get into that. And then he, the mother of the gods, whose name is Aditi, he yanks her earrings, and there's like blood dripping all over. So that's another metaphor for that. And he literally tortures everyone who comes in his way, gods, humans, everyone. He's got that power, right? And then people now go to Krishna and said, hey, this demon's taken over our lives. Aditi, the mother of the gods, whose earrings, got ripped away, the ears are bloody. She goes to Krishna, especially Krishna's wife, called Satya Bhama. And she was really shocked, Satya Bhama, and she told Krishna, hey, we got to do something. And Satya Bhama happens to be an incarnation of Bhudevi, the earth goddess, who was the mother of Narakasura. So in a way, Satya Bhama is Narakasura's mom. So she's on her way to fulfill her destiny. So she and Krishna go on Garuda. So Garuda is their eagle vehicle. So the Indonesian Airlines is Garuda Airlines. So I have a rare Murti of Garuda. This is Garuda, the eagle, the vehicle of Vishnu and Krishna. It's very rare. And Garuda is like what's called autonomous self-driving car technology, because it has got a mind of its own, So, and then this is Dhanvantri, right? Who is responsible for good health? Dantera. He is the Lord of Ayurveda, holding the nectar. I'll get into that. And then this is Krishna, holding the flute. Okay. So we have Krishna's flute falling down. That's usually a sign. Okay. The flute is an important symbolism. When you empty yourself like the flute, you can emanate beautiful music. So the ego is not there, the self replaces it. Okay, where were we in the story? So Krishna and his wife Satyabhama fly on Garuda, the self-driving car. They land in the land of Narakasura. The kingdom of Narakasura is called Kama Rupa. Kama is again desires, Rupa is form. So all these they are encoded, this mythology. And Krishna gets into a big fight with Narakasura. Now remember, Narakasura has that boon, right? That only his mother can kill him. And Krishna tries everything, and they both go at each other. It's like a tussle of equals. And then Satyabhama, his wife, Krishna's wife, starts to join in. And at that time, Narakasura hits a massive, missile at Krishna's heart, and Krishna swoons and passes out. And his wife, Satyabhama, gets really mad, and she chants a Shakti mantra and launches another missile right at Narakasura, and that hits him, and he kind of falls over, dying, because she's his mom. That's his boon, right? And then Krishna wakes up miraculously unhurt and said, I had to pretend this. It was an act so that you can take vengeance on Narakasura, he tells his wife. But on his deathbed, Narakasura realizes the folly of his evil acts. And then he tells Krishna, let this be a day of celebration, where people over the world will realize the negative demons within themselves. Let this day be a day for bringing in light. So let there be rows and rows of lights. So the word Diwali actually comes from Deepavali. And Avali means row, and Deep means lamp. So it literally means rows of lamps. So even the word like Diwali This comes from Hindi. It's again Awali and Diya, lamp. But this is the Sanskrit word, Deepavali. So that's the explanation of this tradition where in Diwali people light lamps everywhere, every home, temple, businesses, they all light lamps. And the idea of the lamp is the wisdom. And the Narakasura, the symbolism is, remember the 72,000, the princesses who are imprisoned. What it represents is, it's actually 16,000, I'm sorry. 16,000 princesses that get imprisoned by Narakasura represents the 16,000 nadis within us that can get blocked. Because when you look at the text Hatha Yoga Pradipika, it talks about the human body has 72,000 nadis. And these are different channels, and the main channel are the Ida Nadi, Pingala Nadi and the Shushumna, right? And you want to bring the Ida and Pingala into the Shushumna for the Kundalini to awaken. And one of the reasons that stops the Kundalini awakening is the demons within us, which blocks the Nadis. And the yogic scripture, Hatha Yoga Pradipika, actually talks about 16,000 that are blocked. And these are the 16,000 princesses who are imprisoned. So these are all not happenstance. There are, the story reveals our yogic journey. And then remember the elephant with the 4 tusks? That 4 tusks represents the 4 petals of your Muladhara chakra. So what Narakasura, the demon, does is he sort of imprisons your Muladhara. The Muladhara is the seat of stability. It's the lowest base in the Abraham Maslow hierarchy of needs. It's our need for security, for relationships, for money. All that kind of gets tangled up. We feel anxious. Okay? And then I talked about Kama Rupa, the kingdom, what it represents. It's really our desires. And there was another commander of Narakasura's army who Krishna slays, and that commander is called Mura, M-U-R-A. And Mura is like the five-hooded cobra. And that represents our 5 senses which are going crazy because we have the demons within us. So Krishna's, another name for Krishna is Murari. Beautiful name for Krishna, the slayer of Mura. So Krishna represents the yogi, the good part within us that wants to slay the demons, it wants to unblock the nadis. And these princesses, 16,000, now they didn't want to go back to heaven. They all wanted to marry Krishna because Krishna is charisma. I talk about the whole Krishna and charisma in my earlier talk. And what Krishna does is he replicates himself mentally with each one of them. And the metaphor here is this represents the turning point in your hero's journey. So the turning point is when you look at Shiva Nataraj, the first quarter is the material world, the second quarter is where we get into kayaking the collective unconscious for archetypes, and I've done several workshops on hero's journey. But this is the turning point, and the turning point is where now you go from dark to the light, you're on the upswing. That turning point is this point. So what Krishna does is he helps all of us go past the turning point. That's the second day, okay, the Narakasura Dashi, okay. And then you come into more the light. And that light is Lakshmi. And I don't know if we'll have time here, but I would love to do even what is called a Manasika Puja on Lakshmi, where we can go the symbols and actually do a mental puja. It's very powerful to invoke the goodness of Lakshmi within us. And Lakshmi, the root is coming from Lakshya. Lakshya literally means goal. We need to have sankalpa. We can't be like, we have to allow things to happen, but there has to be a goal in mind. And Lakshmi's goal, one of the chief goals is peace of mind, actually. That's the real energy of Lakshmi. When you have the abundance, the Shri, it leads to amazing peace of mind. It leads to the flow state. Okay, so I'm now going to get into the Lakshmi, which is the third quarter archetype. Okay, so what happens is we've worked on our stuff, our shadow. So Narakasura is very similar to Durga, and then the 16,000 princesses are like who get married to Krishna is like we start to fix our mind on Krishna, on devotion, and now we start to swing into the Lakshmi phase. And Lakshmi has a beautiful story where she's not really born of any parents. She comes from the churning of the ocean of milk. It's a very beautiful story. Again, it's a metaphor of a hero's journey, of a yogic journey. And so the story starts very innocuously. There was this sage called Durvasa. And he has a beautiful garland of lotuses. So he spent a lot of time making this beautiful garland. And Lakshmi's energy is lotus, right? This is Lakshmi, this one. So she has like 2 lotuses in each hand. And the lotus is like Shri, it's like luminosity, right? Some people have that. When you embark into yoga and a certain maturity happens, there's a aura. That aura is Shri. That Shri is luminosity. The way you talk, the way you dress, the way you do a yoga pose. It can also be called like gravitas. There's a certain luminosity. That's why the sages are called Shri. So Shri is also having creating beauty. So the sage created a beautiful garland of lotuses, and Indra, the head of the gods, he comes on his elephant. And the sage wanted to honor Indra, right? In the Indian tradition, whenever a guest visits you, in the Indian tradition is called Atithi Devo Bhava, which means be the one who treats the guest as God. And the guest is also mindful. A guest will not overstay their welcome. It's like the Jewish tradition, like guests are like fish. After 3 days, both starts to stink, right? So everyone is mindful in this story. But then Indra does something very, very unmindful. And in an earlier Vedic sort of storytelling, Indra's name was Sachin. And Indra was married to a woman very close to Lakshmi called Sachi. So Indra and Lakshmi had a relationship. And Indra was, and Lakshmi Shri, right? The luminosity. And here's Indra who's being garlanded with a mala of lotuses by the sage. And Indra is really, not mindful. He's a bit preoccupied with something. And that's a very consistent pattern in Indra stories where it's a transition from Vedic to Puranic mythology. So what Indra does is he drops the garland on the elephant. He just doesn't care. And the smell bothers the elephant tosses it away. And this angers the sage Durvasa. And he lays a curse. So in this, in the Puranas you have, in the mythology you have like gods and demons, and then you have humans, and then you have sages who are like awakened, so they have the juice. So the sages are actually more powerful than the gods, which is fascinating, because the other meaning is when you are awakened, you are enlightened. Who defines gods? It's you. So Ganesh doesn't come and shake your hand and say, I'm Ganesh. You define Ganesh. So the real power is within you. And Beth Murray had a question in Patreon about Jyoti referred to Shiva as the auspicious nature of consciousness, which is true. That's the real meaning of Shiva in Sanskrit. But then you have the Shiva in the anthropomorphic form. So Beth's question was, do we need a murti? That was her question. And the answer is like this, when you are truly in that formless state, you do not need a murti. But until then you do. When you are truly abiding in the formless, that's why our logo is Om and Ganesh. Ganesh is a form, Om is a formless. The whole idea of using the form and to do the work with them is to purify ourselves, and it takes a long time. Like Jyoti, for instance, she's been working with the murti since the age of 4. She's been doing 3-hour pujas, and it's only over the last 10 years she's gotten into the Upanishads, the formless. So absolutely, the form is needed to go to the formless. And the other question Beth asked was, are they real? Are the forms real? She thought they were real. Absolutely. They're real. They're not only archetypes, they are real energies, right? That's the whole point of my takeaway from my Nadi scroll. By the way, my Nadi scroll was the turning point. Not my Kali moment, but the turning point where I had some misconception that they're just archetypes. No, the murtis are real, the energies of these gods and goddesses. And they're as real as you and me. Okay, so the question is, what is real? And the answer is, the only thing real is the formless consciousness. And everything else is fake news. But until you come to that point, you do need the murtis. And it's not for everyone. I'll be the first to say that. I know you have beautiful murtis, Beth, over the years. And my man Kurt is going to put out videos on how to clean them. There's a technique to clean them. He's going to put out another video on how to make a mala with a pendant for every murti. So there's a lot more stuff we are going to add. And, that's why we do both, the form and the formless. And since I jumped on to questions, I want to answer my friend Stephen Moy's question. Stephen is a beautiful person with a highly developed deep attention skill. And Stephen, you and I, we've talked about that, right? I remember your comment, partial attention scan, right? PAS, that was your... So everyone has partial attention. Nobody's got focus these days, right? So Stephen's question was, what's the significance of the Rudraksha Mala? That's a Rudraksha Mala. That's a symbol of Shiva. It's seeds of a tree from Nepal. But Rudra means Shiva as a ferocious howler. And Aksha means tears. So it means tears of Shiva, the howler. I know I'm getting into another rabbit hole, so I'm going to rely on you, Kurt, to pull me out and tell me where I was before I got into this. So Rudraksha means tears of Shiva, the howler, but metaphorically it's a howler within us. We all have the howler, Rudra. It's like, imagine you're a child of 5, walking with your mom in a mall and you get lost. Like Kurt's son Warwick is outside. And, there's some... apprehension, right? We're in a temple warehouse and there's nobody outside. Similarly, imagine the child if it gets lost, right? From your dad. And what's the child going to do? It's going to howl, right? So the reason Shiva is Rudra is the howler within us. When you disconnect from the source, there's a howl. That's why we engage in these spiritual activities. That's why you're all watching this on Patreon. That's why Jyoti is in Phoenix, studying with Swami TV. And Govindas, I hear, is going to join us soon. That's his whole tradition. It's the howler within us. So Shiva sheds his tears for us to reconnect. Stephen's other question was, he got this roadie Ganesh. I call this one for the road, right? So he asked, what's he holding in his left hand? He's holding a sweet. He's holding a sweet of awakening. It's called Sat Chit Ananda. Sat is truth, Chit is awareness, Ananda is bliss. So that's the payoff of the journey. You can ask, why are we doing this? When you realize more and more the truth, that you are more and more consciousness, there's a ananda, there's a bliss that comes. That's a massive payoff. the worries, the anxieties, they go away and you become like Ganesh. You do this. This is called the Abhaya Mudra, right? Fearless. But the other way to interpret it is, you may have fear, but do it anyway, because you get Ganesh's protection. When you have Ganesh's protection, you got the juice. Okay? Where was I, Kurt?
Indra, Lakshmi, the dropping of the garland.
Yes.
Somebody got upset.
The elephant threw the garland, thank you. And the sage got upset. He, like you're wearing a nice mala, you give it to me, and if I disrespect your throw, you're going to, you're going to get upset, right? And Kurt's got a beard, and, I don't know if I want to mention you have a gun, but I've already mentioned it, I don't know how that'll fly with your politically correct yogic community, but, you don't want to get a sage upset. And Kurt is a sage and a theosophist at the same time, right? So, the sage gets upset and he curses Indra, the head of the gods, that, sorry Kurt,
Right.
put you in a spot there. It just came out, man. So he cursed Indra that you and the gods will lose all your power. Not only that, you will lose Shri, you will lose Lakshmi. You disrespected that garland of lotuses. So that's the power of awakening. You have what is called Vak Shakti, the power of speech, Vak. And by the way, I just remembered in the Narakasura story, remember Aditi, the mother of the gods, her torn earlobes, the earring? What that represents, the crescent earring, represents the Vishuddha, the throat chakra. The throat chakra is a center of purification of all these nadis. So when Krishna restores that, the earrings, it's actually purifying your nadis. So the whole journey is about self-purification. Coming back to this story, okay? So the gods lose their power, they lose Shri. The beauty in the world is gone, the abundance, the flowering, the fruits. So what happens is they go to Vishnu and they said, hey, we messed up. What to do? And then Vishnu said, okay, I'm going to tell you a solution. There's this like a milky ocean. And if you churn it long enough, from that milky ocean will reappear Lakshmi. And not only Lakshmi, from that milky ocean will reappear Dhanvantari. With Dhanvantari is he holds the nectar of immortality, Amrita. So the gods said it will do it, but the project was so big, they had a meeting with the demons. Because remember, the gods had lost their power and the demons were taken over. That's when Vishnu comes. And they decide to churn this ocean and they use a mountain called Mandara. Again, big metaphors here, okay? Mandara. And they use a massive snake called Vasuki. And the gods took the tail of the snake and the demons took the head of the snake. And then they wrapped it around the mountain. And then the gods would yank and then let go, and the demons would yank and let go. So that was a churning. But guess what? This mountain is on this ocean and the mountain starts to sink. So Vishnu again emerges as a Kurma avatar, the tortoise incarnation, and he holds the mountain on his back. So if you go to like Thailand, so Suvarnabhumi airport, there's a 50-foot statue of this churning. Vishnu holding the mountain, the two gods and demons holding the cobra, and the churning would kept going. And then the snake start to freak out. The snake is like getting pulled out on either side, and it starts to like cough and do all the kinds of crazy stuff, and a massive amount of poison called halahal comes out. And that starts to devour everything. And the gods get worried again. So they go to Krishna. Not Krishna, I'm sorry, Shiva. Shiva is called Bholenath. He's a very, you show Shiva a lot of, love. He's like a brother, You can have a very close relationship with Shiva. So Shiva immediately starts to drink the poison from all over. And now what if the poison would affect him, right? That's when his wife Parvati grabs his throat. And the poison just stays in his throat. So that's called Nilakanta. So the metaphor of this churning is a yogic path, okay? We take the positive and the negative, the gods and the demons within us. This is what Carl Jung calls holding the tension of the opposites. There are some issues which cannot be solved, like Israel-Palestine. Right now, the tribalism happening in America, the Democrats, Republicans. There are issues within us, or it can be socialist versus capitalism. There's a lot of churning going on, and what Carl Jung said is when you hold the tension of the opposites, a third force emerges, So for instance, Gandhi was a third force. He changed world history through his actions. He influenced not only India, Pakistan, but Martin Luther King. So the third force in this case was Lakshmi. She literally comes from the churning. And along with Lakshmi comes like gold jewelry, wish-fulfilling cow, a lot of like abundance. And Lakshmi really is the flowering of consciousness. In fact, you should listen to BBC's podcast recently on Lakshmi. Wonderful podcast. But it's very academic. The bhav is in these stories and metaphors, okay? So, Lakshmi emerges. And then what also emerges is Dhanvantri, holding the Amrit, the pot of immortality. And when the demons saw that, they made a beeline for that. And what if the demons drank that immortality? They would again conquer the gods, right? So Vishnu comes as Mohini, a very attractive woman. Moha means like delusion. Her attractiveness can delude your senses. And the demons kind of took one look at Mohini, they kind of just forgot about their mission and just were transfixed by her. And the gods took a drink of the Amrit, each of them, and all was right. But there was one demon, very smart, he saw what was happening. And that was called Rahu, right? Vedic astrology. So he sat in between sun and the moon and he pretended to be a god and he took a swig of the nectar of immortality. But again he was spotted. And he was spotted by Vishnu. And he threw his Sudarshan Chakra, the discus, and he chopped the head off. But the head is gone, but the Rahu had already imbibed the Amrit. That's why he causes eclipses once in a while. He eats up moon and the sun. Another mythology. But really this story is about your ego, your hero's journey, your yogic journey. We churn using the positive and negative, the holding the tension of the opposites. Mandara means single pointed. Man means mind. Dara is single pointed. So we're transfixed in a goal, okay? And then the poison that comes is the stuff that comes out in the beginning of your journey. There are people who can handle your transformation. Maybe it's a partner. Or it could be stuff from within you. Stuff comes out, cleansing. I know a guy I used to teach in Shivananda Ashram, and I've shared this story before. In the beginning of the teacher training, 1 month teacher training, they would wake up at 4 a.m., do chanting, and he's not used to that. So the stuff came out. And for the first week of the teacher training, he just froze. The whole day was like this, instead of studying or doing yoga. Because that's his poison. But if you continue the practice, the Shiva, embraces the poison. He takes care of it. You show love to Shiva. That's why the dancing Shiva is a very powerful archetype on the journey. And then finally, one of the main things that comes in your journey is Shri, Lakshmi. And Lakshmi is much more than wealth. It's even much more than luminosity. Lakshmi is peace of mind that comes. It's a lack of lack. It's that fullness in the path. Remember, lack of lack is Lakshmi, where you don't surrender your power to anyone by asking for stuff, because you already are whole and complete. So Lakshmi is the energy of completeness. And finally Dhanvantari comes holding the moksha, Amrit. Right? So that's the story of Lakshmi. This is the third day. Remember, we're on the third day here. And then the fourth day is what's called Govardhan Puja. That's another long story, but I'm going to skip the story. Except Govardhan is a mountain which Krishna holds. There's a long story on how Indra and Varuna, the god of rains, decided they were feeling disrespected, not enough puja was done to them. So they literally hailed torrential rain and to take revenge on people. And Krishna, he literally held this mountain in his little finger, pinky. Is that pinky? And that protected everyone. So the idea in your journey is you surrender. And there's a higher force that protects you. That's Govardhan. Okay. And incidentally, Lakshmi, she marries Vishnu after the churning of the ocean of milk. So there's a distinct shift from Indra, the head of the gods, to the Puranic gods like Shiva, Vishnu, Krishna, because Vishnu is shown with what's called Vairagya, dispassion, detachment. So Lakshmi goes to people who are not needy, who are not clingy. That's the energy you want to attract Lakshmi in your life. Whereas Indra is always shown as jealous. Indra comes from Indriyas, the five senses. And when the five senses run amok and they are backed by the mind, it doesn't lead to Lakshmi. Lakshmi comes from a higher place where you have intellect, where you have a greater vision, okay, of Vedanta. And finally, the fifth day is what is called Bhai Bain Bhav, which means really brother and sister feelings. Because now you are, further along in the spiritual journey. Okay, we're still in the, work in progress, but then you feel the Lakshmi within you, you feel God's protecting you. Can you share that with people? Can you inspire people? So the real energy of Lakshmi is increase. Can you be a person of increase? Whenever you meet someone, can you inspire them? Doesn't have to be a lot. You don't have to go the whole thing. But can you just inspire them a little bit so they walk away feeling a little better about themselves? There was a whole book written on it, right, by Dan Millman, the 10% happiness. When you engage with someone, if they walk away feeling a little better, that's part of Bhai Bain Bhav. Everyone is sisters and brothers. And if you notice the email I sent you all just today on my retreat invite, I address you as sisters and brothers of the Bhav, and that's the Diwali energy at this time. So this whole journey there's a lot of stories, but there's a lot of hidden symbolisms. And it's my job to sort of uncover them, but it's not me. It's coming from Veda Vyasa, the great sages. I just try to put it in a conversational story. The other big one is, come on and work. I want you to hold the bell. Can you hold it? It's really heavy. And kind of give it a little. Yes, I love it. Please put it back. So I just got this bell from India. We have over 200 boxes. Stay there. Work. Can you stand next to the Lakshmi there? Right there? Yeah. Is she about your height? Or you're getting taller. I think you're taller. So remember Warwick, Kurt's son, he did the Hanuman leap. Remember he leaped over all these cushions. We had a July retreat on Hanuman. So point to the two lotuses in the back, 1 and 2, right? So that's the lotus. She's a lotus goddess, and lotus is purity. And this hand of Lakshmi, point to people to that hand, this one.
Going down.
Yeah, that's called Varada Mudra, which means she gives you boon, and the boon she gives you is of two kinds. One is material prosperity. It is important to help people. Lakshmi's energy is churning, remember. Abundance is never stagnant. It takes money to help people, sometimes, not all the time. So if you have money, your duty is to churn it, to help people. But the real abundance is spiritual abundance, where you expand, where you truly understand that everyone is you. And on the right hand, she does this, right? The abhaya. And where Warwick is going is not only the mala, he's going to adorn Lakshmi. She loves mala. Yeah, there you go. Did you make that mala yourself? Okay. Okay, now Warwick needs a mic. So Kurt has a mic ready. Do you want to join in, Kurt, with Warwick? And talk about... I would love to interview Warwick on the Ganesh he got. But also you made a beautiful bead mala. Would you like to share with us, you and your dad?
My dad and me both made this. My dad made the knots, but I mostly put it all together. The first time we ever tried it, we kind of messed up on one bead. So we had to start all over.
How many beads are there?
108. And then this is the center one. We don't count this one in.
Wow. Warwick. I'm amazed you remember that. And what's the pendant at the end?
It's a crystal. They're all crystals, but I'm not sure what it's called.
No, he means what's this one?
Oh, that's Ganesh.
Nice. So that's your mala.
Yeah.
And what are you wearing, Kurt?
I have different crystals.
Use the mic.
I have different crystals.
Don't show the hands.
It's this part. This is the part we're talking
Yeah, that's the
into.
microphone.
Oh.
Warwick.
This one, just this right by your mouth.
Yeah.
So his malas, he picked out, his beads, we went to the crystal shop. And so he picked out, based on what I had already selected, he went through and picked the colors that he liked and those kinds of things. And then I have some different ones. But I also have a small Ganesh on mine as well.
Yes.
The way in which we did these was we sat down with my Murti and then made it together with the Murti.
The Durga Ganesh one?
The Durga Ganesh. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's really, devotion, right? So this is the time of the year where any murti is, you place an intention, because stay the work. Remember I talked about Narakasura the second day? People in North India also worship Ram on this day, because this is considered the day when Ram and Sita and Hanuman and Ram's brother Lakshman, they all come back victorious after killing Ravana. They all come back to Ayodhya. So there's a big story here. So Ram is like incarnation of Vishnu, Sita is incarnation of Lakshmi, and I didn't know this, but Lakshman, Ram's brother, is incarnation of Vishnu's, snake, Nag, Sesha. So that same snake becomes Patanjali. It's fascinating. So Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman and Sita, they all come in another self-driving vehicle called Pushpak Vimana. And they all land in Ayodhya, and Tulsidas writes this very beautifully, where it's twilight and people are like, the Ayodhya was under darkness for 14 years when Ram was in the forest. So now it's coming back to lights. So they again light the row of lamps, Deepa. And then apparently everyone saw Ram hugging them. So it's the same energy as Krishna, you know. So just a different time era. So Ramayana happened in Treta Yuga, and the Krishna Mahabharata happened in Dwapara Yuga. But the other deity the idea is during Diwali, all the deities are worshipped, because the Bengalis, East India, worship Kali instead of Lakshmi. Kali is massive, and that's an amazing Kali. Warwick, come on here. The big green one. What's the thing that stands out for you?
It looks like it has a lot of weapons.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't want to be messed with.
She doesn't want to be messed with, right? I like that. Did you see her tongue?
Yeah.
It's extra red, right?
Yeah.
So in the story, she drinks a lot of blood. But it's really, she's deeply protective. So Kali is a force for the good. And, you know, we had a big conversation in Vermont. I was in Manchester, Vermont last weekend. Before that, Burlington. Before that, Kurt, we were in Bhakti Fest. We were in Grand Junction, Colorado, and then Wisconsin. So we had a big conversation on how do you get past the turning point and you surrender. You really don't make a conscious decision. You just kind of, and Kali is a great archetype to surrender. You know, so Kali kind of makes you go on the wheel many times until she decides when it ends. Okay. So very powerful archetype. So the point is, during these 5 days, it's a great time to set an intention with any archetype. And then Warwick, you got this baby Ganesh. Could you tell people about why you like that one?
So I like this one because not only that he's carrying sugar, is that he's a kid too. Like,
yes.
When he was little, this is what he looked like.
Yes.
And I'm not saying I'm little, but I'm a kid too.
Yes.
So I like this one because he's offering things like sugar to somebody.
And it's like Halloween candy, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to Legoland tomorrow?
Yeah.
What are you doing there?
We're going to go on some rides, and then when it closes for night, we're going to be, I think you pay like extra money to be able to like go, like, be able to trick or treat inside Legoland.
Wow, you get candy there?
Yeah, I think so.
I love it. Listen, Halloween, like Diwali, is the best festival. Kids love it, right? Isn't that your favorite festival? And so he's like crawling with the Halloween candy, Ganesh.
Yeah.
But he actually looks back. He's offering it to us, right?
Yeah.
So I love this baby. Not a baby, kind of like a boyish Ganesh, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love the red gold finish. So Ganesh is worshipped at Diwali in a big way, both Ganesh and Lakshmi. Thank you, Warwick. This is Lakshmi, right? And one of the meditations we will do next time is, I want to do a live stream next Friday, where we do a Manasika Puja to Lakshmi. We do a mental puja. And we work with a Murti to begin with, but we'll do a mental puja. We'll do some practices. I want to make sure I cover everything. Okay.
Get him?
Yeah, that's the older Ganesh. Yeah, I love the abaya on that one because it's kind of softer right here. Okay.
Did you get the Indra down there?
Oh yeah. So I talked about Indra a lot. Thank you. This is Indra. Wow, it's really heavy. I just got this from India. And it's a very rare depiction of Indra, very similar to Zeus in the Greek tradition. Zeus has a thunderbolt, so does Indra. And
I know him.
yeah, you heard of Zeus?
Yeah.
And then there's another one which is Vishnu. Remember I talked about the earth goddess Bhudevi. So he rescues the earth goddess and she accidentally becomes the mother of Narakasura. So this is Vishnu as a Varaha, boar incarnation. And there's going to be a whole lot of new murtis. I actually want to talk about them. Each one, spend a couple minutes. I think that'll be a fun one. Just do a guided tour of the whole thing. Do we have any comments, questions, Kurt?
Not yet. No.
Is that Hanuman?
Warwick, your Oma's here. She's watching. She says hi.
Hi.
Are you going to see her soon over Thanksgiving?
I think yeah.
Nice. I was going to say one more thing about the retreat. Then I would love for Kurt to come over and share some plans. We want to encourage. It's truly an ashram for all of you. So there are other people who are going to help us. Because we're kind of, we started this few months ago and about 50 people have already joined. It's actually 48, 49. I still have to sign up a couple more and I'm grateful, for the support. But it's really your ashram. So if you have any ideas on how to build engagement, because we do all these events and I travel, but what happens in between events, right? How do you do your practice? So we want to do a lot of, practice-oriented stuff. Jyoti's meditation, Jyoti's philosophy, my storytelling. We will also do 40-day mantra chanting. We will do some regular practices. So that's the whole idea of this digital ashram. It doesn't quite, replace the face-to-face. And in my travels, I feel face-to-face is very needed. There's a lot of pain out there, a lot of isolationist tendencies going on. People want connection, that's clear. This is to, fill the gaps until we meet face-to-face. But I think it's working, it's getting some traction. I would love some ideas from you. But the other thing, I want to announce is we have a workshop in November. 9/10, I believe. It's in the email. Is it 9/10?
Yeah.
I have the flyer too, right?
Right here. 9/10. November 9th and 10th.
So that's the flyer of the workshop. And I can email it to you if you don't have it. And that's on the hero's journey. It's a very short workshop. We will go through all the 4 quadrants of Shiva, a lot of team exercises. That's what we're transitioning to. And the larger retreat, very popular one, is January 16 to 19. The workshop in November, only I will be teaching. Jyoti is in Phoenix, studying with Swami TV, Vedanta. Whereas in January, both Jyoti and I will be teaching, and it's mainly on relationships. So I'll be teaching on dopamine and dharma, modern relationships through these deities. So we will explore these deities, their relationships, and put our stories with them and see how to walk away in a hero's journey. And then Jyoti will be teaching a very powerful subject, is the bhakti of Hanuman as a means for self-realization. And the other announcement I want to make is I've been doing this 18 years and people have wanted me to take them into groups to India, and I'm finally going to do it January 2021. So I'm not going to have a retreat here. Instead we'll be in India, I don't know where. I haven't flushed out the details yet, but I think I want to make it more sort of real world, authentic, not like curated trips and all that. No, we live a curated life here when we live here, but we don't want first world, we want true India. And Kumbh Mela is around the same time. I might include that. I might include just Ram's journey, or I might include Lakshmi. We can go to 1,000-year-old temple of Lakshmi in Mumbai. I mean, that's what I do. When I go to India, I go myself every day to temples. The difference is I would love to take you. but it's mainly a teaching trip. I would love to get into symbology, mythology, culture. It's very rich. So we have some ideas on how to make the digital experience better and perhaps more organized. Would you like to share anything you have on this?
Just keep the feedback coming. You know, Jacqueline had mentioned tonight being able to zoom in when you're holding a Murti, right?
Yes.
And that would be fantastic if we actually had cameras that could quickly do that and then zoom out without having everything shake around and those kinds of things. But ultimately what we want to be able to do, and what we've kind of had, for instance, at the retreat, is we would have a camera up there pointing straight at the podium, and we would have the Murti there.
Yes.
So we will get to that place of being able to, when you have all of these, for instance, and I have a little bit of time, taking still shots, taking small videos that I can edit into a live stream, but we're still just slowly ramping up to that. And so the more, the more of those ideas come in, even if we can't do it right now, it plants a seed that we can say, okay, I think I can get to that, next week or next month or whatever. We can start to go down that path.
I love the Zoom idea. Thanks, Jacqueline. Hope the audio volume is okay.
Yeah, she hasn't mentioned anything, so I'm assuming it is.
No news is
She's
good news.
When no news is good news, yep.
And then, we probably have about 40-50 videos. We're kind of going at it. And then there's so many other videos from the retreat we did in July that will be posted.
Yeah.
And there's so many interviews I've done with other people. And then you, myself, and Jyoti have had several conversations that will be posted. So the interviews are like also teaching moments where everyone shares their journey, but we bring in the Murti of Vedantic teachings. But one of the things I am noticing, and I know you've talked about it, is these videos just keep like scrolling like text messages, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not Snapchat where it just vanishes, right? But we want a better way of organizing.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think we'll get there. That's one of the reasons I put out a post, a couple days ago, trying to say that we've got plans in mind. I have plans in mind to make this a lot better, so that it'll just be notifications that would come out through Patreon that would suggest reminders. Here's some of the videos that have been posted, so that rather than, because what I don't want to do is inundate people with a video a day or every 2 days or 3 days, and then you start to, you can't get to them all.
Right.
Some of them might be an hour, some of them might be 20 minutes. I'd rather have it be a buffet where people can go and say, today I want to focus on Jyoti's teachings. Now I want stuff on meditation. Now I want stuff on how to clean and care for my Murtis, right? And instead of having to wait for it, you just go and you find it.
I agree.
And so that's where we have all these videos, but if I start to put them all out there, it's a post and then a post and then a post and then a post.
And you get lost.
And yeah, I mean, I made the mistake of signing up for a crystal, the place is called the Crystal Vault, and it said, hey, sign up for our newsletter and you'll get some cool stuff. And I'm like, okay. Next thing I know, I had like 15 emails that completely buried everything else in my inbox because they came through so quickly and they wouldn't stop.
So we don't
want to do that
this.
to people. Yeah.
So you have
So I have a plan to move forward.
So does Elizabeth Warren. I have
exactly.
a plan.
Yeah. We're going to start to move over to Vimeo to host these, because the software we use for the live streaming links directly with YouTube and with Vimeo, so we can go to both. But Vimeo is a secure spot where, people who have paid to the Patreon and are contributing get access to the quote unquote premium stuff, all of the teachings. And then YouTube is a way for us to kind of give back to the general community that, here's, teachings that are free. And
so YouTube is kind of a lighter version.
A lighter version. Yeah.
You get a little bit just for like publicity.
Yep.
And then Patreon and Vimeo will be deep practices.
Think, from my perspective, I want the community aspect, and YouTube doesn't build community. YouTube is a place to go and watch TV. You know what I mean? So you can get information, and you can kind of live chat like we are. We're chatting live right now, but I want something that will be where we can go and connect with people. And so I spoke with
Jack,
in Colorado, that was talking about how he has expertise, or at least experience, with Discord, and that's a whole different platform that I was looking into to start using. And so if we can start to get people that have some expertise and some experience that can help us move forward quicker, then we can get that community built up. Because right now we have yogis from how many states,
Yes.
that they're not in the same time zone, right? They're not, but they come and they'll meet in January or they'll meet in July, and then they have to go their separate ways. And I know that there's a bond because we try to connect on Facebook.
Yes.
And so I'm just looking for how can we create a spot for the teachings where people can come together, and then a spot for if you just want to hang out and share goofy stuff that isn't related to teachings, you can go to Facebook, and we'll have a place for that too.
Right. So we will organize the videos into categories.
Yeah.
We will encourage more community. There could be Venmo. I'm ready to pay whatever it costs to do all that. To me, I feel so lucky that you want to build community. I mean, you're doing it as part of your hero's journey. It's very beautiful. I'm grateful that you've kind of embraced this, and I think that's where we are going. This is really an ashram for all of us, and we will also have more workshops, shorter, like 2-day workshops, 3-day, 4-day. We will mix it up.
But not only that, I'm pushing you to up your game. So when we're talking about the hero's journey, that's a typical entry-level discussion that we give to people who are new to the philosophy,
Yes.
new to archetypes,
Yes.
new to symbolism.
Yes.
But that's not to say that once you understand the hero's journey, you just get it, right? And we kind of, I want to keep expanding on that. And so he and I will have conversations about what if we do this and what if we talk about this, and so we're always trying to make it more, to make it extra,
And an emphasis on practice.
Yes.
Practice.
Yeah.
Listen, we will all sort of, I think we have been growing in different ways, but if we do it together, there's a real, it's called the wisdom of the crowds. So the 1,000-year-old Lakshmi temple I went to earlier this year in Mumbai, I'll take you there. I mean, I imagine over hundreds of years, people showing their devotion, devotion is big in the journey. And that's the wisdom of the crowds. We make these the memes, so we are the ones who can do it together. And the world, the way it is, so much manipulation and tribalism, and I always say we are the resistance, so we can make it happen. Any last words?
Yeah, I'm going to share a story because it relates to the synchronicities of all this stuff. So you had your stories tonight, and it was about the churning, using the snake, the serpent to go ahead and churn. So I went on a night hike on Wednesday to our local mountain, and I didn't use a flashlight.
Is that Coles Mountain?
It was, Coles Mountain, and then there's another little peak, that you can do another mile hike out there. So I went out to the part where nobody ever goes to, right? And I didn't use my flashlight, and the moon wasn't even out. So it was where the only light we had was light pollution from the city, But it was this cool effect of, in the movie Avatar, where they would step, the ground would glow, So you could kind of see the trail just because it was a lighter color than the bushes and everything.
Did you go by yourself?
Was by myself, yeah. So on the way back, I'm hiking and hiking and hiking. All of a sudden I hear, as 5 feet in front of me, there was a rattlesnake sitting in the middle of the path that wasn't there on the way out, but he was sure there on the way back. And so as you're talking about, venom, right? As you're talking about serpents, that just happened to me literally 2 nights ago, where on my way down, back to civilization from this mountain. And I had some really cool epiphanies when I was out there, some really good stuff happening when you're all alone in nature at night, you have time and space and quiet to think and to not think. So anyway, I had to share that story. It's the first time I'd ever experienced that, and it was and it has to do with that the whole rest of the way. When we're talking about the story of the rope in the dark room, and we imagine it's a snake until the light's on. The whole rest of the way, every time I'd see a shadow, I freaked out, thinking that's another rattlesnake, and then I would have to push forward. I'd have to have no fear and just be like, you know what? Just because I saw one snake doesn't mean that every single shadow is another snake. The snake will let me know.
Or have a little bit of fear, but do it anyway.
It was enough, but it was do it anyway. Yeah.
And you also saw an owl last year.
No, the owl was
Lakshmi?
when he was younger.
Okay.
Yeah, the owl was when he was younger, but it was at 2:00 in the afternoon, sitting on our balcony kind of a thing on the way down the steps. So that was a whole nother animal totem experience that I had. But the snake one, because it just happened and we were just talking about it, I felt like I had to share.
So we all have these stories. And that's why at our retreats and workshops, we have filming interview where you and I, we have a conversation about your life story, the Murti, how it changes your lives. So we're going to post a whole bunch of them coming up, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
once I think we should organize a video. So great point. Thank you so much. It's a very auspicious
Thank
time
you.
of the year, Diwali. Happy Diwali, Jai Ganesha.
Jai Ganesh.
Much love. Thank you. Thank you, Warwick.
You're welcome.
You don't even bat an eyelid. You're a pro now.
I don't think so. There we go. Now it says we're not.